Hello, I'm here in Molly Love's home again because she's friends with this lady, this wonderful lady called Lorraine Pickles, who has done this wonderful CD, and this is to, she's done this poem, and basically she's done lots of other things. She's worked in the Goddess, with the Goddess movement. She's done several different things, which I'm going to hand over to her now to let you know. She's been coming backwards and forwards to Glastonbury for many moons, and also she has lived in Glastonbury, and she's going to be coming back to retire in Glastonbury. So I'm just hello Lorraine.
Hello.
So could you just tell us first of all about your wonderful CD?
Oh right, yes, thank you. Well, I produced the Soul Catchers CD with my son, actually, who's a musician, and on the CD is a collection of poems that I read out at Goddess ceremonies. Well, I have read out at various times throughout the years, and also there's a couple of poems that I included, which were from, I used to do performance poetry in Bristol, and they were from those years. Why I decided on a CD was that a lot of people said they quite enjoyed me reading the poems.
Yeah.
So it just seemed a good idea.
Yeah.
So that came out about this time last year.
Yeah. And you've got a poem here, haven't you, that you brought with
yes,
you? So
yes.
she's going to read this out for us. It's a wonderful poem
And
that Lorraine's wrote herself.
this is on the CD, and it's called The Phoenix at the Bottom of My Wardrobe. Last spring, I found a phoenix at the bottom of my wardrobe. Truth to tell, she was in a sorry state. All her red and gold feathers lay like some exotic tapestry on the bottom of my wardrobe. And she was, well, completely bald. What are you doing here? I asked. Haven't you heard of the fires of spring? Shouldn't you be rising from the ashes? She looked at me with sad eyes. The thing is, she whispered, I am afraid of fire. I took her out and sat her on my bed and rather unkindly lit a match. She scuttled under the duvet and was shaking so violently the whole bed rattled. I'm sorry, I said, when she eventually emerged, her eyes wide with terror. I think I know what we have to do, though. That evening, at dusk, I wrapped her in a blanket and carried her to the car. And we journeyed through the night, singing rousing songs like, Come on, baby, light my fire, and When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At dawn, we came to a mountain where I carried her to the edge, and with bated breath, I let her go. She faltered at first, then flew higher and higher towards the rising sun, until suddenly she burst into flames, and the fire engulfed her until her red and gold feathers gleamed in the sun, and she swooped down towards me, triumphant, then flew off, restored, well and beautiful. Later that day, I gathered all of the red and gold feathers in the bottom of my wardrobe, and I made them into a cloak, and when I'm afraid, I wrap the cloak around my shoulders, and I feel her warmth, and I feel her fire release me, and I am free.
Oh, thank you, Lorraine. That was wonderful. I could, as you were reading that poem, I was actually seeing the colours of reds and oranges, and it was lovely. And I was feeling quite lifted with that. It was lovely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Also, you've done a lot of things in Glastonbury, haven't you? There's lots of things you've got involved with, and
Yeah, I suppose it's been mostly through the temple. As I say, I started coming to Glastonbury. Well, when I was living in Bristol. I moved to Bristol in my 20s and became involved in the Bristol Theosophical Society. And everyone said to me, "Oh, you really must visit Glastonbury, it's amazing." And that was the first time I started coming down here. And when my children were young, we used to come down here and they used to run up and down the tour, and I've always felt that kind of affinity to the place. But I have followed various spiritual paths. One of them has been Quakers, and it was when I was a Quaker that I became interested in paganism, and went to a couple of linked training weekends on the Goddess, and then again Glastonbury came up. There's a Goddess temple in Glastonbury. I didn't know that. So one day I bundled my sons in the car and left them in a skateboard park, and came into the temple and picked up a leaflet on the priestess training and also the conference. So that was 10 years ago. So
wow, so that's quite some time now.
Yeah.
So lots of changes and things.
Yes, lots of changes.
But you've been involved in a group, haven't you, with Molly, to do with the Goddess, haven't you?
Yes, there last year somebody called Britt Dickinson, or B as we know her, started up like a pilot training about Cerridwen, which has now become a 2-year training with the temple.
Okay.
So ours was a kind of like a fast track priestess training,
Okay.
and we followed the myth of Cerridwen, and particularly what she kind of I think means in terms of her role in the kind of the wheel of the year.
Yeah. Could you tell us about Cerridwen, please?
Yeah.
Some people might not know.
Yes. Well, the actual myth of Cerridwen, she's a Welsh goddess, and is purported to come from Lake Barlow or Llyn Tegwyd in North Wales, and she had this huge cauldron which she stirred her brew of inspiration, and to cut the long story short, she left someone in charge of the cauldron who actually managed to ingest some drops of inspiration that were meant for her son, and she chased him through, and he shapeshifted. She finally ate him, and then he developed into a baby, and she set the baby adrift, knowing that was his destiny, and he became Taliesin, who's a very famous Welsh bard. That's the actual myth itself. Cerridwen is one of the dark goddesses.
Right.
So she is found on the Wheel of the Year, starting from Samhain.
Right.
So Samhain is her time, and it's a time of quite deep testing for people.
And today's date is November the 30th, isn't it?
Yes,
Today.
yes.
So we're in Cerridwen's
We are.
time.
We're still in
Yeah.
Samhain.
Yeah.
And if you visit, as I'm sure you have done, Glastonbury Goddess Temple at this time of year, it's always completely in darkness.
So it's a dark time.
So I've been kind of drawn to Cerridwen, and I was on a retreat actually with Kathy Jones at the temple in Iona, and we had a day of silence, and on this day I had this idea that I wanted to write a series of crime novels with featuring Cerridwen as like a kind of Miss Marple figure.
Yeah, oh, that sounds interesting.
And then I would follow her through the year. So the idea was that I would write 4 books. I'm really going to have to speed up, actually, if that's my target.
Yeah.
And take her through the year. So the first book would be set at Samhain,
Yeah.
and then in Bolton and Lammas, in Bolton and Lammas. And I've just finished the first book,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
called The Lake, and
Yeah.
which will be available shortly,
Yeah, very
hopefully
soon.
in the new year.
Yeah. And that's going to be able to be purchased in Glastonbury.
Yes,
isn't it?
yes,
And around and about.
I've done one or two. I've opened up a Facebook page, and I've done lots of "this is coming soon,"
Yeah.
but have found that the whole process of getting a book out is quite slow, and I think you tend to think if you finish a book, then that's it, it's almost there, and
Yeah.
you've moved on psychologically.
Mm.
But it's got to be kind of got together and edited and proofread, and all that process has taken longer than I thought it was going to. But hopefully it will be ready certainly at the end of the year, beginning of next. So
Can I just go back to Cerridwen?
Yeah.
What in this time, November the 30th today is
Mhm.
what we're today we are. What would you do in this time of the year to celebrate this dark time? You know, because it's for me personally, I feel it's a time of quiet and going into
absolutely,
yourself,
yes,
and collecting thoughts and not pushing it too much at
No.
the moment.
no.
I don't know how you feel.
You're right, I think, and I think there's a natural tendency for people to want to hibernate this
Yeah,
time of year.
I'd almost say go into a cave.
It's getting
really.
darker and colder, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think there's some of that. At the time of Samhain is often a time when we remember our ancestors, and I think and those who've passed. Samhain Eve particularly, because the veils between the two worlds are at their thinnest. So that's actually a time of remembering people. I think in a way, as you say, it's about kind of going inwards and really sowing some seeds for the next year. So it's a quite an introspective time.
So it's quite a good time for people with a creative mind, artists and poets like yourself and writers, and it's an indulgence in a way too of your creativity, isn't it? Don't you feel like this time, for me, I just feel like I want to just look away and do things,
Yeah.
and that's quite nice, isn't it?
Yes.
It's working with the elements, I suppose, isn't it? It's working with the
Yes.
seasons to have
Mm.
festivities. Do you think that?
I do, and I haven't always had a spiritual life which has involved experiencing the seasons in that way, and that was one of the things that drew me to paganism and the goddess movement was that the whole thing became cyclical, and it helped me appreciate the seasons much more. I mean, for instance, I used to be one of the many people who really didn't like winter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not mad keen on it, but I think when you actually see it as part of a cycle, and it's necessary, and it's necessary to kind of things to die down, to kind of be reborn again, in that way, I think it helps you with the more extremes of the seasons, and particularly winter, which can be, for many people, quite a dreary period.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's what else? Is there anything else? What do you see yourself doing in the future within the next sort of 18 months?
Oh, right. Well, I need to get on with the second book, actually. I've just kind of, as a sort of distraction or a divergent tactic, or whatever you want to call it, I did start the second book before I finished the first, because I just got stuck. So I have started the second book, so I need to kind of get on with that. And just generally, I mean, I'm interested in doing other things as well, kind of moving towards a state where I'm doing more things that I kind of enjoy doing. I do some spiritual counselling and
you
that kind
said
of
something
thing.
about being a minister of
I was. I've also trained as an interfaith minister quite recently. Actually, I was ordained in the summer, so I'd quite like to see where that kind of fits into things and do some more work.
Wow, a lot going on. Well,
There is.
Well, so people can contact you via Facebook with this.
At the moment, yes, I have a Facebook page, the Soul Catchers, and also the Lake is on Facebook. I'm hoping to get a website together to kind of pull together all the sort of strands of the things I do as well. So.
Well, thank you for talking to me
Oh,
today.
well, thank you for talking to me.
And we're going to
That's
come
been
and see
great.
Lorraine when she has a book launch as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay,
I look forward to that.
So-
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Danielle.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.